All right, there we go. A little technical difficulty to get us started, but here it is. The hashtag steel toes required quote of the week, New Year's Eve edition. So we're closing 2017, but we're not bringing in 2018 together. But that gave me an idea. I might just do that one year. We'll go 4 hours. Who would be in for 4 hours of this? What's up, Deuce? Good to see you, Jared. Glad to see that you're here too. Look, we're going to have a great discussion tonight because this quote just came to my mind, no kidding, this morning. I had something else prepared, but this quote jumped into my head off of an article I read. Hey, Amy, number 33 is in the house. Love it. And this quote really brought back memories because it was 25 years ago that I actually discovered this quote. Ed Reed, glad you're here, brother. I appreciate you so much. And this quote comes from Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Now, Spurgeon was a pastor in London in the 1800s. Whew, I'll tell you what, Spurgeon really rocked my world. This guy was a pastor at the age of 16. That's how mature he was. And he was such a great man of God, but also a great leader. I mean, he was training people. Hey, Heidi, I'm glad to see you here. He trained people in ministers, and he was giving lectures to students. And this particular quote was directed at these students, but applies to us today. So it's about reading and about books. One of my favorite things to do is to read, and one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, places to be, is bookstores and books. You can see some behind me. I got like 400 in the room. Aunt Eileen, I'm so glad you're here. And hey there, Jay Seminoff, glad to see you. Mindy. So here's the quote. It's a lengthy one, so pay attention. Here we go. Spurgeon says, master the books that you have. Read them thoroughly. Bathe in them until they saturate you. Read and reread them and digest them, because you will be more affected by one book thoroughly mastered than by 20 merely skimmed. Whew. That's a mouthful. And, you know, I've probably got about, I think, 600 books here in this room, probably 1,500 in my house. Here's what I know. I haven't read them all. I probably haven't even read half of them, to be honest with you. But there are certain books that I have read over and over and over again that are in my DNA that, and I'll ask you this question. If I were to cut you right now, what books would you bleed? If I were to cut you right now, what books would you bleed? Because they're in your DNA. You've got them just in your soul. And what prompted this quote and what prompted this discussion tonight is I read an article from Inc.com that said that you could read 200 books in a year. The average person can read 200 books in a year. That's a lot of books, and I'll be honest with you. I'm a goal setter, and I didn't set that big of a goal to read this year, that number of books. I think my goal right now is in the 50 to 75 range. But still, that's a lot of books. So when you break down the math, and I recommend you read that article. It's very interesting. It is How to Read 200 Books This Year by Jessica Stillman. Go to Inc.com. Just type in How to Read 200 Books This Year. It'll pop right up. Are you guys having technical issues with me? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is everything okay? Where are we at? Can you see me? Can you hear me okay? All right, well, I've got a lot of people popping in. Sonny, glad you're here. Luke Maribel, I'm glad you're here as well, my friend. Let's keep bringing it. So as far as books go, the question I have for you is it quantity or is it quality? What means more to you? Now, I'm a competitive person. And so initially the thought is, well, I want to read as many books as possible. But reading as many books as possible doesn't necessarily mean you digest 200 books. How many of you could read 200 books but not digest 200 books? I can tell you right now, my hand's raised. I'm stepping on my own toes right here. I'm with you, Amy. I do want to read 200 books this year, but the question is digesting those 200 books. That's what's important. You see, I've got a couple of books coming in the mail, and I'm not buying another book until I digest the ones that I have here. That's a promise I'm making to you. Because I've got over 1,000 books. I don't need any more. I need to digest, and I need to ingest, digest, and then live those books out. Now, how about you? Maybe some of you have a library full of books, and that's great. But some of you, maybe not so much, but that's okay. You've still got books. And unlike Spurgeon here in the 1800s, he doesn't have Kindle. He didn't have audiobooks. He didn't have internet. He didn't have e-books and every other book that's out there. We are without excuse for having resources. We've got the resources. But now, you've got to use them. Tools aren't very good. Tools look great in the toolbox, but if you don't use them, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Books are tools to help you grow. So here's something to help you. If you haven't lined out how many books you want to read and even what books you read, some of you already have. I've seen some of you post on Facebook your list of books that you're going to read this year. My books are on my desk. Thanks, Amy. You noticed. Yes, I did get a haircut. Cracking me up, Amy. The books, I have them on my desk I'm going to read this year and focus on. But now here it is. How can you get the most out of your reading? And you've heard me mention this before, but I'll say it again. The number one thing is distractions. You got to cut out the distractions. Distractions like too much TV, social media. Remember a few episodes back where I mentioned that the average person spends about 7 to 8 hours a day on social media and watching TV? Imagine just taking one of those hours and putting it towards reading, which requires, if you're going to do that, oh yeah, Amy, here's the necklace right here. Hashtag steeltoesrequired. Right there. There it is. It's out. And I lost my train of thought for a second. Boom. Reading. 1 hour. Imagine setting aside an hour each day from your social media and from TV and apply it towards reading. That right there alone will help you read 200 books. But just because you set that time aside, you got to do it. And that means you got to schedule it. You have to put it on your schedule. Put it on your schedule, and then you got to keep it. You got to keep that appointment with yourself. The easiest appointments for us to break on our calendar are the ones to ourselves. And we got to quit doing that. We have to quit doing that. Because in order for you to add value to others, in order for you to grow others, you've got to pour into you first. You can't give what you don't have. You can't run a car with no oil in it for very long. It's going to break down. It's the same with you. Same with you, same with these books. So set up your reading list for this year by setting it, comparing those books to where you want to grow. For some people, they want to grow spiritually. So they're going to get books. They're going to read books like the Bible. They're going to read books about prayer or meditation or how to study or particular topics from a spiritual nature. So that's one way to help you grow. For me, I'm a business owner. Some of you are business owners. You want to grow your business. That requires you to work on sales. If you've got employees, leadership. Maybe you're running also your social media. So you do want to spend time in social media. Business building. So there's another aspect. All of us. Relationships matter. You've got to grow relationships. So the best way to grow relationships, read some books on relationships. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book. John Maxwell, Winning with People. Another fantastic book. There's a lot of great books out there to help you relate better to people. Growing Your Families. The 5 Love Languages. Another great book to add to your library and to help you grow there. So you can take the books and focus them on different areas you want to grow. Why? Because it's an internal motivator. It's a why. If your why's not strong enough, it doesn't matter if you put 200 books on your desk. They're just going to collect dust if your why's not strong enough for reading them. That's important. And remember, yep, Ed Reed, great point, great segue. Take notes. How do you get those books into your DNA? You got to take notes. And here, I got a secret for you. I got a secret. Pay attention. It's not a sin to write in your book, unless it's not your book. If you borrow the book from somebody else, don't write in it. And if you do, you better buy them a copy. Take notes, because there's something magical between the pen and writing it down in a journal and on paper, or writing it in the book. That's a great way to retain. Another great way to retain information, to retain a book, is to teach it to someone else. When you learn something new and you apply it, teaching it to someone else reinforces it in your system. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience. When I've learned something that has added value to me, I want to teach it to somebody else because it reinforces. And because it added value to me, I want to give it to you. I want to give it away. I want to help other people grow in whatever aspect, whether it's their faith, their business, their life, relationships, those areas. If I learn something new that's added value to me and has helped with me, by golly, I do want to give it to you. And Amy just asked me, what am I reading now? Great question, Amy. I just finished reading today John Gordon's book, The Energy Bus. If you like books that have points in it embedded in a story, it's a great read. It's a quick read. It's a fun read. And that's another aspect of reading. It's not just about learning. There are some books you want to read for fun. You want this to be fun. If you're constantly grinding it out, you got to have things in you. You need that rest and recovery. It's the same thing with your reading. I love to read sports books, sports biographies, really just, especially events that I grew up with, like the Lakers and Celtics of the 80s. Love reading about Showtime Lakers and Larry Bird and the Celtics. A lot of fun reading those books. Reading books about, baseball players or football coaches. I've got about 3 or 4 of Tom Landry behind me. Lombardi. On my desk, I'm reading Lou Holtz's autobiography again. That's a book that is cutting my DNA because I just love the way he communicates. So, Amy, great question on what I'm reading. The first book I'm reading to start off the new year is a book called Acres of Diamonds. I'm actually diving into some of the original success motivational speakers from the early 1900s that I've picked up from reading and listening to Brian Buffini's podcast. And so, you know what? There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. We're saying the same things in different ways or just taking different aspects of things. So I want to go back to the basics, the fundamentals, the people that started it, learn how they communicated, and also pick up little nuggets from them to tweak into my own life, business, as well as content and books as I write. Ed Reed enjoys reading history books. That's what I'm talking about, Ed. I like some history books. Myself, I'm a sports guy. Love sports. I can read sports all the time, to be honest with you. Those are fun for me. And I also enjoy reading Sherlock Holmes. There you go. So, with all of that said, let's bring it down. Here we are, New Year's Eve. 2017 we're wrapping it up, tying the bow. We are down to the last couple of hours. We're moving into 2018. So, what are you going to do differently in 2018? And then how are you going to continue doing it? Because just this week, I was on a friend of mine's Facebook feed, and he pointed out that everybody he asked about making New Year's resolutions, all of them said every one of them said, we're not doing New Year's resolutions. And why? Because they don't keep them. So what are you going to do this year to improve yourself and move forward with it? and not give into the New Year's resolution. Oh, well, by February 14th, I'm done. Valentine's Day, I've blown it. What are you going to do differently? One way you can start is with your reading. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of books. Like Amy and I, we signed up for the miles, running 2,018 miles in 2018. Not individually, but all of us as a team.